Hello, hello, and we're moving on in our next set of notes. We're talking about absolute value. You might recall this from last lesson when we talked about these vocabulary words, what an opposite is, and then our absolute value. It's distance on a number line, and this should be up on our vocabulary wall. So we're going to actually talk about how do you find that and what does this mean. So I'm going to start with reminding you that an opposite, opposites are numbers that are the same distance. Circle this word. This is a key word with absolute value. Distance, distance, distance. How far away something is. Opposites are numbers that are the same distance from zero on a number line, but in opposite directions. Got that covered. We studied that. We worked on that. We're going to keep working on that. Now moving on. On the number line below, we're going to identify two pairs of opposite numbers. So you guys can come up with different ones. So I'm going to give you guys about 20 seconds to find a number on the number line and write its opposite. Go. All right. If you guys actually pause the video and chose a number yourself, there could be so many different numbers. You might even have picked a number that's not on this number line. You might have picked positive 100 and negative 100. They're not on this number line, but they would be opposites. So I'm just going to go ahead and share with you a couple examples. I could have picked positive 6 and negative 6 are opposites. I could have also said negative 1 and positive 1 are opposites. Moving on. This is what we're talking about today, is an absolute value is an integer's distance from zero on a number line. You can write the absolute value of 5 with symbols. I'm going to write it here, but I'm also going to write it bigger on the side. Actually, I'm going to start here. In order to write absolute value, you kind of use long, straight, almost like parentheses. They go around a number like you'd recognize a parentheses, kind of like these. But if I stretch them out and made them straight. So if I said the absolute value of 5, these two straight lines are these words. And then in the middle I would put 5. I want to know the absolute value of 5. And then I'm going to go ahead and write it again on the space they provided. Now, you want to be careful when you're writing these absolute value symbols and not make them accidentally look like ones. See, I'm going to zoom in. I try to make them a little bit longer. And if you're getting it on the word, that's fine. Because I don't want this. I don't want you to accidentally go, that looks like 151. I'm looking for more of this. Not crazy longer, but just longer enough you can tell that it's not a whole number, 151. I want to know the absolute value of 5. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So we're going to find the absolute value of negative 9 using the number line below. So here we go. Here's my number line. I'm going to find negative 9. Here it is. And now I want to know its distance from 0. So I'm going to count the spaces away it is from 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's how many spaces it is away from 0. So the absolute value of negative 9 is just 9. Now, if you recall, the reason it's 9 is because I'm not asking the question, where is this number on the number line? I would say negative 9. I'm not asking that. I'm asking, what is the distance? And distance is always positive. I'm going to write it here. Distance is always positive. Even though the 9 is negative, its distance, its absolute value, is just 9. You just put the digit. That's another really good way if it says the absolute value. Whatever it says inside the absolute value, it is just 5. The absolute value of negative 9, it is just 9. Now we're going to find the absolute value of positive 9 using the number line above. Maybe a different color. Here's positive 9. I'm going to count how many spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many spaces was it away? It was 9 spaces away. Just 9. Because distance is always positive. Distance is never negative. Ever, ever, ever. Even if I had a 9-yard penalty and went back 9 yards, if I asked, how far away is this penalty? It's still 9 spaces. Distance is never represented as negative. That is why when we're looking at absolute value, you will see it represented like this. Opposites always have the same absolute value. And that was given in the example here. You asked for the absolute value of positive 9 and the absolute value of negative 9. Look, they are the same distance away from 0. One is positive, one is negative. So if I'm asking for their absolute value using these symbols, like we saw here and here, the opposites have the same absolute value. Their answers were both 9. And absolute value is always positive because distance is always positive. We wrote that already. Good to remind yourself that distance is always positive. Always, always. I guarantee there's going to be a question on the test and it'll ask, why? Why is absolute value always positive? And you're going to say right here, because distance is always positive. Distance is never, where to go? Distance is never negative. And then the last note. Knowing the absolute value of numbers will help you determine which is closest to 0. Figure out how many spaces it away from 0. Which one is closer? All right. Let's take a look at the back side, the start of our group work. So inside of the absolute value sign, it's asking what is the absolute value of negative 19? How many spaces is this number away from 0? Well, even though it's negative 19, it would be on the negative end of the number line. 19 spaces. That means its absolute value would just be 19. You're going to also see fractions. 2.5. How many spaces is 2.5 away from 0? Well, it is just 2.5 spaces away from 0. Simple as that. What is the absolute value of 14? How many spaces is this away from 0? That is literally what these things are asking every single time you see them. How many spaces is this away from 0? That is the question. That is its objective. That is its task it's asking you. Well, 14 is 14 spaces away from 0. Find the absolute value. Negative 0.34. How far away is this from 0? Well, it's just 0.34 spaces away from 0. Are you noticing a pattern? It's just the number within the absolute value symbols, but just be sure that it is now positive, always, because distance is never negative. The absolute value of 8 is just 8. The absolute value of negative 14.5 is just 14.5. Now you're going to see things like this, kind of like an order of operations thing. I'm going to zoom in. So first, just like PEMDAS, the parentheses, solve this first. 3 plus 4 is 7, with the symbol still around it. What is the absolute value of 7? How far away is this from 0? Well, it's only 7 spaces away from 0. Same with this one. 5 times 6. 5 times 6 is 30. How many spaces away is 30 from 0? It's 30 spaces away from 0. Okay. So just like in an earlier note, your last set of notes, you're going to work on these last 2 problems on your own. But let me help you set them up. A seagull flies 50 feet above sea level. A dolphin swims 20 feet below sea level. Which animal is, this should say, closest to sea level? Which one is closest to 0? So you need to make a number line, or you can use the symbols and find the absolute value of these numbers and tell me who's closer to 0. Is it the seagull is closer or the dolphin is closer? You got to let me know. And the next one. I'm going to zoom in. Jeremy, Alicia, and Edgar are playing a game where the object is to get the closest to 0 points. If Jeremy has negative 250 points, Alicia has negative 150 points, and Edgar has 300 points, who is the winner? Who is closest to 0 points? You got to find the absolute value of these three numbers. And then tell me who's really closer to 0. Who has the smallest, did I spell that wrong? Yes, I did. Absolute value. Which one of these has the smallest absolute value, the closest proximity to the number 0? All right. Once you finish these two problems, then you can go ahead and get group work and or work on Dreambox. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.